Hey, hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. Hey, hello, how are you guys doing? That's awesome to be here with you. Great, great, great. Today we're gonna have a good discussion here at the out of the box developer. So if you can hear us, if you can see us, just say a quick hello in the chat. Let us know if everything is good. If you can hear. Let's see if the chat's working. So I see some people watching in different places. So very very good to be here with you. Say hey, good afternoon, Bazlur. That's awesome, man, to be here with you, Bazlur. That's great. So Bazlur is watching us from LinkedIn. So Douglas is here also. Hello, Douglas. Hey, Eduardo. Nice to see you guys. Awesome. So that's so good. So good. So we're going to have a good discussion here today. So I see Eduardo's on LinkedIn. Douglas is on YouTube. That's so good. Awesome. All right. So today we're going to discuss a topic that it's close and dear to all of us, right? Is how to be a good developer, right? What are the skills, the technologies, the tools, the whatever, right? The practice that you need to be a good developer. Oh, everyone wants to be a good developer. So, without further ado, let me bring here my two friends and guests, right? The host here of the Out of the Box Developer. So he is a specialist on architecture. He works for cool companies in Brazil. He has a book, and he's here, one of the hosts of the Out of the Box Developer, Yugo Sakamoto. Hey, Yugo, how you doing, man?
Hey Bruno, thank you so much for inviting me. And hello everyone. I hope we will have a good discussion today about being good developer.
Awesome. That's great. And our main host and the guy that inspired this whole thing that we're doing here, he is a Java champion, the leader of the London Java community. Actually, it's going to be cool because the London Java community is going to run an event pretty soon now, right? So let's bring here Money Sarkar. Hey, Money.
Hello. Good to see you again. It's been 2 weeks, Bruno. I was counting every day to for this session, and it's happened again. So great. Thank you for inviting me here, and great to be here with two of you great developers and great people of the community. And again, I'm looking forward to some really great discussions, just like we had in the last 5 sessions,
That's
and we're
good.
gonna have another one this time as well.
That's right. So the out of the box developer is coming to the fifth session, right? So
Yep.
we imagine money that we would do that would actually get going and do so many, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we started on a very good day. We started on Chinese New Year early this year, right? In February. I don't know if you noted it on the first session. I actually mentioned today is Chinese New Year, and that is 1st of February. Around that time, we started,
Yeah,
and from there to now, it's been how many? It's been almost 3 months, right? And
yeah,
we've done like 5 sessions. So I think we are doing very well. Almost every other week. I think it's happening. So
that's great.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to today's sessions because I think both of you have behind the curtains idea of what's going to happen. So I think the surprise, will be opened out of the Pandora's box for the
All
rest of
right.
our crowd.
Okay, so look, the topic here today is how to be a better developer or a good developer or whatever you want to call, right? So that's the discussion we want to have. So feel free to ask your questions, to make comments, to participate. One thing that if you're right there at my channel, my YouTube channel, how about you subscribe to the channel? How about you give a little like to this video here? So other people can see it. And you can also promote that on your social media. If you are on LinkedIn, if you're on Twitter, you can retweet or reshare that video so other people can come here and participate with us. So feel free to send your questions at any time. Our objective here is to be very, very, very interactive. We're actually thinking about ways of making this even more interactive with all of you. So, Money, I'm going to start that discussion with you then, right? So, do you want to start with the news, or do you want to start with the discussion itself?
I think we kick off with the news, right? It's fresh, or do you want to do the news towards the end? Because then, like we finish with the news. It's up
Okay.
to you. However you want to do it. Yeah.
Let's do the news hands, because then people can go and take action on the news, right?
Exactly, because it'll be forgotten if you do it now, and whereas we want it to be hot in the minds of people because it's an event they want to be part of as well, right? If they're and it's actually an online offline event, so depending on how you can arrange this.
Okay, so we already said half of the news, but that's good. All right.
Well, we haven't specified what it is, so
Right. Okay. So money. I think this discussion about being a good developer or being a better developer, or however we want to say that, it's very close and very dear to developers, right? Because I think we know all of us, we want to improve, we want to to work on more interesting things. We want to be seen and be visible in the market as good professionals, as quality professionals. So, you know, do you have any idea what and I think it's very hard to first to say what's a good developer, what's not, right? So do you have any general ideas on what is to be a good developer at all?
So that's a good question, right? So I might even ask you the question back. What is the definition of a good developer? What is the definition of a better developer? Because we will have two different dictionaries, and our meanings may just overlap or may not overlap. And it has nothing to do with language here. It has to do with the language of our understanding of what good or better is, right? So, when I was being mentored, and I've been mentored for the last 20 years, but in one of those sections of the years, I was told, so-and-so thing helps you design things or find designs. But you need to know what a good design is to find that good design, right? Because the design's probably floating right under your nose, but you're not seeing it, right? So exactly the same thing. We need to know what good is to know that that is good. We need to know what is better to know that is better than what we know, right? So what is that? That's very subjective, and you can't really put it in words, or I cannot tell you in this dictionary on this page that's the meaning of the word good or better, right? But there are so we can take it back. There are traits and qualities, right? We can describe in general words and feeling and understanding, right? I was thinking about this word quality, because let's say good and better is the definition of quality, right? Is a attribute of quality, right? You're talking about good quality or better quality, right? So what is quality? So there can be many things, right? I'm going to name them, and you can decide. Quality is a metric, right? For some people, right? Quality is an opinion for all of us, many of us. But we may be forgetting quality is a feeling out of an experience, right? And I can explain that. And that feeling that comes from an experience is a result of communication, right? And I'll explain that further, because it's broken into two parts. One is interaction, and the other one is what's the right way to put that is flow, right? And I'll explain to you. Like, if you go to a website, right, and you come back saying, hey, that's a great site, I went, I fell in love with it. Why is that? Because you had a great experience. Why did you fall in love with it? Because you had a great experience, and that gave you a great feeling. There you go. But what really happened there? The website communicated with you, right? But no, you communicated with the website, and the website communicated back with you. But how did that happen? Because you interacted with the website, right? And so I said, right, communication is broken into interaction and flow. But interaction is what? It's not a one-way street. There has to be a flow, right? We humans, I mean, and it's very normal, right? If there is a confusing flow, we are not going to be impressed by it. That's not good interaction. If there's a smooth, ergonomic, human-like flow, right, then oh, this is really intuitive. This really knows what I want. And that gives you the great feeling, right? And that gives you the impression and the experience, right? That's the whole experience. And then you put a quality score to it, and then that's your opinion. Your opinion, it's a great website. That's my definition of quality. And now you can relate this to good and better, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So can we now relate this to good and better, good developer and better developer? Because it's the experience, the
All
feeling
right.
they give you, the experience that they give you, or they bring forward to you.
So let's see if I understand. So you're saying that a good developer is someone that communicates with you interactively. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
let's put it this way. So that's a little bit literal, but what I would say is that good developer, you will get an experience and a feeling from the good developer that the person, uh, uh, whatever the person does, because everything is communication, right? Writing code, showing code,
Right.
taking definition, specification from you, producing a result out of it, presenting it, right? And there's a whole flow and interaction and all that with it, right?
Mhm.
That is involved with it. Uh, and uh, if that flow is smooth and intuitive, and the interaction in the flow, there is a nice gel in it, and the person communicates well, right? No, so there's lots of things, personality,
Well,
the and all that stuff. So if
oh,
that all is there, you get the feeling that this person is a great developer. You haven't probably even seen their code sometimes. That will
right.
probably give you the next level of experience.
But I do think I like the way that you put this whole thing about quality and all that, because you in the end you put the quality in terms of communication interaction. I know I went very literal, right? But in reality, when you write code, right, it is communication, right? We actually write code. It's very funny because we think that we write code for the compiler, right? We write code for the computer, but the reason we write code is for other developers, right? So
Humans, us and others.
exactly, right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I do agree with you that it's clearly, for me, what I'm taking from everything you said here, that clearly there is a communication aspect there that makes someone a good developer, right? So
Yeah.
and I understand it's subjective, and I want to get back to the topic of subjective in a
Yeah.
minute. I just want to give Hugo here a chance on, how about you, Hugo? After this
This great
this whole
answer from from
from
money.
Tony, right? So what you want to say?
Okay, yeah, I will try to add something, but with the money answer, I was while when it's talking, I was thinking in another side. Like I love the communication stuff because when I talk about architecture, architecture is exactly communication.
Mhm.
The importance of architects is to enable communication between the team, the developers team, and this communication is consistent between all the people that will take their hands into the code, and I agree about that. That brings quality and all the stuff. But I was thinking about if I think more a good and better developer in the aspect of effectiveness and value that they can bring to the problem that they are trying to solve. So thinking this way, I thought like three things that I believe it's very important to make you a better developer or a good developer. It's quite difficult to separate those two. I think that's another challenge that we have to discuss more here. But the first thing that comes in my mind is we have to understand what kind of skills that we have, or the skills that we want to focus, and that will be the set of things that you can deliver and bring value. And then you have to understand what is the problem, the real problem that you are trying to solve. So that's the second thing that you have to understand very well, because you can use all your tools and skills to a problem that is not the real problem. So you end up using a lot of effort for something that is not bringing value for whoever or whatever you're working to. And then the third thing is to find this connection between what you can bring, what you can do, what actions you can do with the problem that you are trying to solve. So these are three things that when you solve it very well, when you have a clear understanding of those things, you become very effective and bring a lot of value for anything or anyone, anything that you are trying to build. independent of the level or company that you are working. So that's something different point of view that I try to bring here, that I talk right now.
Okay. So let me just say hello to Rania, right? Rania is clapping there on Facebook. So hey, Rania, so good to have you here. Awesome. Yeah, so you see that, this whole discussion about better and worse and all of that, it's very subjective, right? So we have to completely, I mean, they're not opposite, they're just different, and points of views here, and I think that's wonderful. And I think that one of the problems that we have is that, contrary to other areas, right, we actually don't have a scale like this, right? It's not, there are areas, for example, I don't know, let's say, if you play chess, for example, right? If you play chess, now you play against other people, right? And there is a rank, right? You can actually say, oh, this person is better than that person because they played once against each other, and this guy won from that guy, right? And so when we're talking about software development, we don't have anything like that, right? And there's no competition that would show this kind of things, because really, there's no way for you to actually measure. Manny is doing one project, Yugo is doing another project. How do we know if Manny is better or worse than Yugo, right? So it's a lot more subjective. But one thing that Manny said that kind of made me think here is that, when you think about software development, right? Software development has a component. There is an art component, right? It is a creative component, and of course, there's a lot of engineering, a lot of science, right, in software development. But sorry about that. So there's a lot of engineering science on software development, but there is a big component, right, of arts, right, and creativity, and that component, it's probably what makes this thing very hard for us to define, right? Because you can solve a problem in a good way, right, and you can solve a problem in a creative way, and which one are better, right? Which one are it's if it solves the problem, is that good enough, right? If it solves the problem with quality, but less code, is it better than a problem that solves the problem with more code, right? Or if it's faster, is it better than if it was slower, right? There's so many different quality aspects of it, and because there's a creative side of it, then that's hard for us to judge. I think that's why we have so many wars, right, on software development. Oh, my language is better than your language. My framework is better than your framework, right? Or my database is better than your database. I mean, there's so many things because of that. That's kind of my take on this.
Yeah. So you know what I wanted to add, and whilst Hugo was saying, I was smiling because Hugo was kind of saying the similar things that what I said, but he was saying it more specifically. What I was trying to say was a more abstract and a higher level, right? Because in Hugo's definitions, there is, if you look closely, there is interaction and flow, and there is communication, right? Because without interaction and flow are part of communication. Without that, whatever Hugo was defining, the three components he defined, because even code that you write, you're actually communicating also with the machine, but also you're communicating with the person who's writing the code, but who else will be reading the code, and also you have expressed the communication of the stakeholders who need the solution of the code, right? The stakeholders are actually not writing code, but their information has been translated and distilled down and trickled down. That communication and interaction and flow is happening in your code, right? If your code is too complicated, and this brings me to Conway's law. If you know what Conway's law is, right? For the viewers, we'll share a link about it. Conway's law says the reflection of the complexity of your solution is the reflection of the complexity of the communication that happens in your organization. Now, not the exact words, but this is the meaning of what he says, and that is where exactly where communication comes in, because the interaction and flow, if there is, disruption, then Conway's law kicks in, and Conway's law kicks in all the time, right? You cannot say my organization is free from Conway's law, because it could be positive interaction and positive flow, which has result in less complexity in your solution. And that goes back to our software as well. If our stakeholders are product owners and all those people, they communicate top to down in a ubiquitous language, the programmer, tester, the deployer, whatever, all the way to the other end of the pipeline, understand that interaction flow, and Yugo very rightly said, brings value. That is so important. That is the communication that needs to come from right from the top and go all the way to the bottom, and needs to be ubiquitous. If there's disruption in the flow and interaction in that communication of what is the value you're bringing by writing this software, then that organization or group or individual may not be doing quality work, right? You can say.
Okay, so all this is awesome, man. Look, this whole discussion here, and we can take that discussion for a long, long time. But let me just say hello to Urania says hello, Pedro says good night. Actually, I'm just gonna put some of this. So Urania says hello. Hey Urania, how are you doing? Pedro says hello, good night, gentlemen.
Good night, Pedro.
And then I see Cristiano, Linux man here, is also here with us. And then Bruno is here with us too. Hey Bruno, how everyone? But I got this. There's this awesome question here from Baslur. So Baslur say, how to explain that to a junior developer, right? This whole thing about communications, the parties, all of that, because I think Baslur is bringing that discussion. We're too high up, right? Let's bring the discussion down to our
reality.
Daily, so what we actually do, to the things that we work with. Let's bring the discussion to a daily life of a developer. So there's far too many things that we can talk about here, but how about we say, for a junior developer, or for someone that wants to become a better developer, so what would you say that's like practical things, or things they can do on their daily basis, that would make them a better developer? So let's let Yugo, do you want to start with something here? So Yugo, how about let's go to several rounds here. Don't say many things, just say one thing. And so
many things will come out of this question.
Practical things we can do to really get better in a way that we can explain to a junior developer. Because if you can explain to a junior developer, you can explain to everyone, right? So
I think for junior developers, if they are starting the position, it's quite very difficult to say directly, like, oh, the first thing that you need to know is communication. I think trying to show examples where a clear unclear communication, clear understanding of what they are doing, it can drive to a very difficult situation, or very complicated, and the best they can do is to not to know everything, because they are just starting. I think it's a very difficult to ask them to do so, but try to touch and ask and give them be open to them to ask questions and answer them, so they will be more willing to contribute in a safer way. So they will be more how can I say? They'll be more willing to help.
Okay, so asking questions every day, right? That's a good way for being a better developer.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's great. So how about you, Manny?
I'll give you an example of a junior developer I have been mentoring recently, and really awesome developer, less experienced but really intelligent, observations and the skills. So the two things I have been telling this junior developer is, A is try to break a big problem into small pieces.
Mhm.
as small as possible, but not too small. They can never go very small with those problems because it's very new. So they'll still try to break a problem and it's still not small enough. So the worry is not that they'll break it down to too small. If they break it down to really small, that means also it's a good thing. But they'll still try to break the problem down not small enough. That is the exercise I like them to do, and I help them and keep making them do that. I keep making do that and keep making do that. So that's one thing. The other thing is whilst I'm solving another problem, okay, I try to trigger this behavior or the thinking pattern in them, saying, try to find out why this is working,
Mhm.
because that will also help you find out why this is not working. And I actually use both these questions in different times. If something has failed, then I try to say, try to find out why has this failed, then try to find out when you have fixed it, why is it working?
Mhm.
Right? When I instill them with this thinking, right, then these are core things I never did. Like, I used to just jump to a solution and okay, it works, and never bother and go into deep dives into what's the fundamental idea behind, okay, I set this variable and hence it's working. Not just because I just sent something and I don't know what I did, because I saw it somewhere. That kind of a behavior needs to be removed from the process. So those are the two things, and then I'll have more things to say when we do the next round. But this is the first, and it's random because there's so many list of things, there's no order, but as it keeps happening, I just drop it in, right? So these are my 2 points that I would suggest.
Okay. I love what Manny just said. That's this whole idea as a developer, right, is for you to have this mindset, right? I think that the important thing that we have to have is the mindset of trying to understand the problem, of trying to understand why things are working, trying to understand trying to understand things, right? Actually, I think that's why developers want to learn so many things, because you try to understand things, right? And so for me, I think that yeah, Pedro said asking questions every day, right? Pedro is summarizing what you're saying here. Okay, thanks, Pedro. That's good, man. All right. So one thing that I'm gonna say that using both the asking questions from Yugo and the the breaking down the problems in pieces from money is reading code, right? So I think that if you get in the mindset all the time of reading code, right? I think it's impressive how many times we try to solve problems just by writing code, right? And we just kind of think that our job is just to write and to write more code and fixing things and everything like that. But we forget that most of what we actually do is read the code, understand the code, right? So if you read the code and you ask questions, right? Why this is working, why this is not working, and then you start breaking down those problems, right? That's why I love I know I'm just gonna do one, no, I'm not gonna do one more thing. I'm just gonna say I love refactoring, right? Not because refactoring is a great way to fix code, but it's a great way to read code, right? When you read code, if you can get a piece of code and you refactor that code, you don't even need to apply it, right? Just use the refactoring tools just to break down the code in lots of small pieces, and then you can read the code. Oh, now I understand what it is. Then you can throw the refactor away if you don't want to apply it. Just now you understand the code. So read code and have this ability of understanding what's going on. I think that's probably the thing that's going to make you an awesome developer.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, spot on.
So Hugo, one
Yeah,
more.
yeah. I was just thinking like,
Just for people to just arrive here. I saw that some people just arrived here. So for just people to just arrive,
oh,
we're going around on practical things that you can do. No matter. And by the way, we start here from Basil's question about junior developers, right? But one thing I want to say is that skills, you can always improve your skills. Science has not found a limit on how much you can improve your skill. So it doesn't matter if you're junior or if you're a 20-year senior, right? It's you can always improve how you read code. You can always improve how you ask questions. You can always improve how you break down your problems, right? So
I think Basil wrote something
No,
like that.
go ahead,
Yeah.
Hugo. Let's do one more round.
He's summarizing. They're summarizing whatever we are saying, which is great, isn't it?
Okay.
You have editors in the audience. What more do you want, Bruno?
Yeah, awesome.
Good. Well, I was also thinking about my wife had this migration from health area to the data science area, and I have seen a lot, and I have these difficulties to explain her how to start coding and everything and everything on because she doesn't have any background on IT and computer science. So one thing that worked very well, not worked much for me because I couldn't have much time, but it's having the time available. So she can try things and go and walk on her own feet. So having some environment that she can try and error, I think that's something good for that I see that was good for her, and yeah, I think being available for to help her, it's something very important. Unfortunately, I couldn't be much available, so her manager did the work, and I see how it worked for her, and she got lucky with that. But yeah, something that worked in a real experience.
It's awesome, right? So yeah, so trying things out, right, and being able to fail and have someone to help you out thinking about things. Okay, that's good,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, Pedro's saying summarizing helped me think. So that's great, Pedro. You know, you think that you think when you think, but you only think when you write, when you speak, when you externalize, right? So that's great, Pedro, that you're doing this. Awesome. So how about you, Manny? And we go one more.
Yeah. So I know
Questions.
on the back of what Hugo said, I actually have three very short points to say. One is when they are failing, you should watch them fail and then show them that so it's okay to fail, but then show them that you've been also able show them the solution and how to come out of that failure, and then also show them that you can actually spring back up from the failure, so it's normal and okay to fail. This is something very important because they, as juniors, they can easily get discouraged if they keep facing failures and blockages, right? The other thing to also show them, and that actually comes very closely with the failures, to show them, try to have a plan B. And immediately it may not be available or known, but like, for example, I was helping a junior in a presentation, and I said, look, you're going to do this demo, right? What if the thing doesn't work? Why don't you take screenshots of all those things, place them somewhere? If your program doesn't work, you have a plan B. Keep your plan B. If your plan A works, don't use plan B, but use plan B if plan A starts to fail. So then failure is not a problem, right? So that's the thing on top of what Hugo was saying. But also on top of, show them failure, let them fail, show them the solution, and show them they can spring back up from a failure, and they're much better and stronger. And the third thing is also based on success and failure, which will actually improve the success rate, is to encourage them to solve the same problem in many different ways, as many different ways they can think of. Right? It may sound redundant, it may sound silly, but I can share some link. There is a thinking called developer anarchy by this person called Fred George. He used to be, and I don't know if he still is, engineering manager at a bunch of companies. And what he did was he made his engineering team cross-pollinate, but also every so many sprints, they would change their tech stack and develop almost the same solution in a new tech stack. And they kept doing it. And so they became so good at the domain, the technical domain, and also the business domain. Because the technical domain, they were good anyways. It's the business domain they wanted to crack. And so they wanted to find the best combination of technologies that will solve the business problem. But now they have cross-pollinated and done combination permutation so many times with so many tech stacks that tech stack is like left hand, right? Business domain is now captured because they know how to, and they can work with any technology, with any team member, because they're cross-pollinated so many times. Everybody's multi-skilled, right? So if a junior can do that, and I used to do katas where I used to write the same kata using different combinations of libraries and frameworks in the same language. but sometimes you were encouraged to do it in another language, right? There's a book called 7 Languages in 7 Weeks. There's also a book called 7 Databases in 7 Weeks, something like that. And there's also another called another 7 Languages in 7 weeks, something like that. So these are done to build that muscle memory of repetition, which what Richard Feynman says, repetition. If you follow Richard Feynman, he has quotes on repetition. This really builds the muscle memory for everybody who does this. So these are the three things which when done in a serious manner will give super benefits to junior developers and every developer of every level.
Yeah, I always remember when people say, 7 languages in 7 days or something like this. Many years ago, there was this book called, Learn Java in 21 Days, right? And so I had someone coming to me and say, man, for me, this looks like more learning Java in 21 years. So, yeah, and that's true, right? It's true. You're going to spend the 21 years learning Java, right? Or learning anything, right? You're going deeper and deeper and deeper. So I'm going to end this second round here of what things you can do to be better with Bruno's message here, right? He says, I learn a lot when I teach other people. So I'm going to make my message Bruno's message, right? So two Brunos working together here. Right? So,
that's very convenient, isn't it?
So Bruno said, right?
Right. Which Bruno? Be specific.
Exactly. So you're totally right, Bruno. So I think this is the thing that I think that we start talking about communication, and Basru has some comments on communication here, but we start talking about communication. But I totally agree with that. That every time you teach, you learn, right? So even if you are a junior, right, like Bruno says here, you can still teach something to someone, right? And so I think that the best way for you to learn is instead of you focus a lot of time on you learning new things, focus a lot of time teaching people the things that you want to learn, right? And I think that's a great way of helping out. And Basru says, I learn a lot when I write for others, right? That's perfect. And it's totally right. So Pedro says, that's my first Java book, the 21 days, learn Java in 21 days, right? Was it 21 days or 21 years, right? That's awesome. Okay. So Money has some, I'm just going to put some, Money says 7 languages in 7 weeks. Is this a book, Money?
Yes, it's a book. It teaches you several different languages. I can't remember the names. Maybe there's Python, IOTA, Scala, and all those things. And so you do the same programs in 7 different languages or similar programs. So basically, you do functional, and you do imperative, you do declarative. So that way, you're kind of bending your mind, right, on different things. Like try to do Fibonacci in functional, try to do Fibonacci in declarative, try to do Fibonacci in procedural language. And then kind of test yourself and challenge yourself.
That's nice. So yeah, one of the hardest but most rewarding class I had in university, we had to implement multiple compilers for multiple, for Lisp and for an object-oriented language, for a procedural language, all that. So we had to build compilers for all those things, and that made us understand a lot about the difference from languages and like this, right? Yeah, Basler also put here 7 weeks. Yeah, so yeah, I just put the link on the chat also, Basler. So that's great. Okay, and also Money has Fred George on programming anarchy.
Yeah, it used to be called developer anarchy, called programmer anarchy. So many different names for that same thing, but it means the same thing.
All right,
and there's a lot of videos and an article on it. It is really worth reading it and understanding what this concept is. And I've only summarized what he does or what he did. And this is 10 years old, but the principle applies even today, right?
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let me get back here lots of great comments here on the chat. So Basler says, I agree that deep dive is essential, right? And sometimes your developers start jumping on the next stuff, on the next work when they finish. One problem you can solve in 3 different ways, and knowing the answer to why I'm picking this particular one is also indispensable. Yeah, I know we're talking a lot about junior developers, right? But I think that one problem that we have, let me get back to the whole idea of software development as art, right? There is an art component, there's a creative component in art. And so one thing that Money said in the very beginning that I want to bring back here is that Money said about design, right? And you can't really know a good or bad design if you don't see it, right? If you don't see, you can't really understand a design if you don't see what's good design, what's bad design. And I think that that's for creative things, right? In general, you don't, how can you know what's a good music or bad music if you haven't heard enough musics to have some that are good, some that are bad, right? Or how do you know if anything that's creative, right? If you like or not, if you don't see that. And so I think that one of the things that we see a lot is that we do this at university, right? And then we take this out in our projects, in our whole life, right? Is that we have a problem to solve, we solve that problem, and as soon as solve it, we move on to the next problem, right? So we never get back to look, what was that a good solution? Was that a bad solution? And so have you guys do you guys face like thing like this? Is that enough time in the day in our lives to actually go back and look at good solutions and bad solutions? What do you guys think?
Well, I yeah, I think some challenges there is to have time also to do all these things. So yeah, when I look back, things that I believe I could do better. Yeah, I think it's quite difficult to answer, Bruno. I think I didn't went back as much as I want,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's something that is interesting because of that, it's quite difficult to be also empathetic, emphasize junior developers and see their challenge because
Mhm.
as we go forward, we just get much more distances and to see the same challenge that we faced before. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. So we all face challenges all the time, right? So actually, Bruno says art's something that you only improve with practice, right? And so and that's why I think it's so important that we work on what we're doing every day. And that's why I think, for example, when you say it's funny that when you say practice, a lot of times we think, oh yeah, so I got to practice outside of work, right? I got to practice at night. I got to practice in the weekends. And yes, I'm sure you can do that if you want to, but there's no, the 8 hours that you're paid to work, right? Those
Mm.
8 hours are enough hours for you to, for you to practice, to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn, right? There's nothing's going to make you learn more and faster than actually, working your 8 hours in a good way, right? So try to get that practice at your work. That's going to be important. So it's not only practice, like just practice time, right? It's actually working on your real software is going to be great practice for you too. So Bazrus asked here, I need to ask this. This is one of the most asked questions, right? About lead code style of coding. The FANG companies hire based on those expertise. In reality, software development is much more than that. What do you think about that, Manny?
Yeah, I think he hit it spot on. But I don't know if they still do that. And if they still do that, that is crazy because many of those sites are very algorithmic problem solving sites.
Mm-hmm.
And software development is not about algorithmic solving only. It's only probably in academia somewhere in a very small part, right? As he said, software development is way more than that. I mean, when I started my freelancing 5 years ago, my first project was with this company called Accelerate.io. You should go to the website, and I'll share it later on. And what we were doing was exactly what software developers do in day-to-day coding. What he did is he created a kind of a gaming system where you download the code onto your IDE, you download the clients, and then the client's running in the background, and every time you code and you push the code to the server, it's compiling your code, running test coverage on it, and it's sending you the next requirement, and it's also calculating the amount of time you're spending on each requirement, and every time you do that, it's generating new requirements for the next test, right? And that is how a business works, right? In some sense, in a small, but that is a lot more realistic test, right? Then if you do an algorithmic test and then they check for complexity and performance and whatnot, and none of that is used in the work you're going to be doing. Because I talk to companies who do that and say, do you really write code like this? And they wouldn't have an answer. Because they and if this is how you do it, it's not a democratic way of writing code, right? Where I don't have any say in what you're reviewing and what you're telling me, the code is not good or not, or this is how you do your PR, your pull request reviews, and so they don't have an answer to it. So those FANG companies, if at all they are doing it, then they're actually missing out on good developers. They're probably just going to get algorithmic programmers who are really good at solving algorithmic problems and write really complex code that only they understand. Right.
Oh, well.
I'm sorry, I'm being specific here, but this is what comes to my mind first when I see these kinds of website names.
Oh man, I wrote an email this week talking about exactly that, right? So based on there's a guy from Google, Anonymous, right? That he published an article talking about some Googlers writing really complex questions for interviews, right? And then he was saying that sometimes there are weeks inside Google discussing the results of that question, right? And he was like, and then those people expect a candidate to solve those things in 40 minutes, right? When lots of people discussing together haven't solved that in weeks, right? So so I think this is, I totally agree with you, man, that every time companies do this kind of things, they are, look, they're missing, right? Because they're missing good people, right?
Yeah.
Now,
and it's also unreasonable to do this.
Yeah, right. But there is one interesting thing that we have to think about, right? Is that companies that do that are companies that have so many people wanting to work for them, right? That even though they might lose some people, that's okay because they have this huge influx of people wanting to work for them. So the one thing I keep saying all the time, guys, you don't look at what some company or some person do and say, I'm going to do what that person do, because you don't know their reality, right? You don't know if their reality applies to your situation, right? So that works for companies. For example, if you look on, and we can talk about microservice, for example, right? So, oh yes, you get all those big companies doing microservices, so I should do microservice my project. And the question is why, right? What? I mean, you might have to do it, right? I'm not saying not, right? But if you don't understand why you're doing it, you're just doing because someone else is doing, you're applying their problems, their situation, their difficulties to your project. And sometimes you don't have their problems. So you're bringing their problems into your project, right? Unnecessarily. And that's the same thing when you talk about being a better developer. Sometimes you look like I have money, and Yugo and Bruno and someone else, right? You say, oh, I want to be like those guys, and I'm gonna do what they're doing, right? I'm gonna come here and do lives and spend time, but you don't know their reality. You don't even know how good they are, right? Someone told me the other day, but Bruno, I want to be as good as you, and I said, you don't know how good I am. Right? How can you be as good as me? Because you have no idea. I might be way worse than you, right?
Yeah. Don't wish for something that you may not want it later on.
Exactly.
Think twice before you make a wish like that.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, the answer to that question is that because I mean, the company, if they are, see, this again goes to Conway's law. I rest my case, right? They are going to attract exactly what they want in their company. Right. And that's why their interview process is the way it is.
Yes, exactly. Right. So so
if they want to build a complex machinery, they are looking for complex people. Mm-hmm. They're not looking for people who really will solve problems elegantly, and keep things simple.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that indeed indeed, those challenges might add something, might create some insight about the person, but you can't just use that as the key point to uh, to to know if the person is good or not. It's one of skills that they can have, they might have, and as Bruno said, it also depends on the problem that you are trying to solve. So that skill might be very important for the team that you are looking for to build up, or don't add anything if he can solve and know the complexities of that algorithm and so on. So yeah, always have to trade off and be very clear about what kind of problem that you're trying to solve. That's
Yeah.
helps a lot at any decision that you are trying to do inside
Yeah.
your company.
So I have a simple example to share actually. Early this year and maybe last year, I came across two such companies. One that would, when they are hiring you, if you pass through the first interview process, the second interview process is they will invite you as a team member into their organization
Mhm.
for 3 days or 7 days, and they will pay you for those 7 days, and you're actually sitting with their developers solving their tickets. And
Mhm.
at the end of the 7 days, you're evaluated whether they want to continue working with you or not. But you get paid for those 3 or 7 or 5 days. And I think that's the most fair way, right? Because that way it's a two-way street. They get to know how you work with their team. The person who works with them gets paid like the daily wage for those 5 days. And that person also gets to see what kind of an environment I'm working in, what kind of problems I'm solving, what kind of tickets I'm doing. And so both can partly, happily part if it's not a working situation with either of them. But it's an amazing situation if it works. Then they just can get continued hiring of this person. This is one. And the another one I came across is they put you on their Slack channel. They give you a problem to solve, which is exactly the problem they have internally to solve. Except in the second case, they don't pay you for it, but they treat you like their company. You're a member of their team already,
Mhm.
and you can ask questions. uh, it's the problem is given to you. They won't give you the answers, but they'll give you hints. They'll help you. They'll be social with you. There's people interacting with you. You're on their Slack channel, right? And you can casually take a month or so to solve that problem. And if they're happy with the solution, you're hired, right? So this is the culture of hiring. I think that should carry on.
And
Not that.
that's another way, right? Look, I'm gonna I like Legos, right? And I don't have a lot of time to build lots of Legos, but I love Legos. And one of the things that I love about Legos, right, is the way they hire top Lego designer, people that are designing their big projects, right? The way they hire that is that they actually have a community where people come to the community and build Lego designs, right? And they propose Lego designs, and actually Lego even they if you go in the Lego community, you can vote for designs, right? If there is a design that had lots of votes, Lego actually get that design and turn into a product, right? And so when they want to hire top Lego designers, what do? They go to the Lego community and say, "Let me see those designers there," right? And oh man, this guy must be awesome. And they hire people. They're doing awesome thing. And we have the exactly same thing inside our community, and it's called open source, right?
Yep.
Open source is exactly that. It's that community of people working on code. And so no, so my suggestion to anyone that wants to be hired to any company is that just go and Google, right? Go to Google and say, and Google open source in the name of your company, right? And the company you want to work for. And Google's going to list you all kinds of projects that this company, either project they're using or project they're sponsoring or project they're their projects, and just choose one of those projects and go work on that, right? Because that we're going to put you in a position to do exactly what Manny is talking about, that you're going to be working with people from that company on a daily basis on an open source project. And that, if there is one thing that's going to make you a great developer is to work with other great developers, right? And so if you do that, that's an amazing way to both improve as a developer and be hired as a top developer in those companies.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that because half of my work that I've been doing in the freelance world, they actually want me on board to develop open source for them. They want to put their product, their library, their framework online on GitHub through my work, right? Or some of them GitHub actions that they want to create and things like that. And so I also been contributing to the open source world, which actually also led me to knowing people like Yugo and Bruno. Like, I started 9-10 years ago, and it built up slowly, and that's how I made friends in the open source communities. So today the developer friends I have actually sprouted from the open source community, and a lot of my work references and both permanent roles and freelance roles that I've been doing in the last 10-12 years are all coming directly and indirectly from the open source world, right? The London Java community and all the jugs and communities that we know of actually know us through all the open source work we've been doing, right? So
And Manny, let me ask one thing, because I think that's something that you both, we're almost out of time here now. Actually, let me just tell everyone, we apologize here that we cross the hour limits, right? It's not because we started 15 minutes after the hour, so we're gonna end 15 minutes after the hour too, right? But one thing I want to, you just mentioned, Manny, about open source and meeting people in open source, and I'm here sitting here, and I'm watching exactly this happen, right? So you and Yugo have been, because for everyone to know, we have this Telegram group where the three of us are discussing things, and then I keep watching Manny and Yugo working together on an open source project all the time in the group, right? And so tell me a little bit, Manny, how is that going? How you're meeting Yugo recently? Are you able to know more about him? Are you able to know him as if he's a good developer, a bad developer, by doing this project together? How's that going?
I mean, I already mentioned this in the last session. Hugo is a very senior developer. You just give him a hint, you just give him a few tips, and he knows how to row the boat. And together we've been able to bring the project. And you can look at let's share the link again, because I think every time people forget, they forget to put likes and all that stuff, and fork our repo and share it with people on social media. So I'm going to share it again, and you can see all our work that we've been doing in the last so many weeks in the Git history of the project, all the commits and everything, all the conversations that's happening in the issue, and it's going great, because I have an idea, he has an idea, we put it on the issues, we discuss it out. Sometimes we discuss it on Telegram, sometimes we have calls like this. There is no I haven't. It's smooth sailing, because we both are in sync with where we want to take the project. We needed to sync each other up first initially, and do a couple of small tasks together for the project. Once that was done, we both know now how to drive this further, and that is something every pair of developers can do, right? So, and that's how a project gets rolling as well. And now we have a whole issue list categorized, prioritized, labeled, which Yugo did a great job of labeling. We used another repository as a reference, and we labeled all our issues. So we now know all the issues. If a new issue comes in, we know the priority. We are not going to do an issue that is low priority, high priority, or low priority first and high priority later on, right? We're going to, and we also size the issues. How big are they? How small are they? And we prioritize based on, okay, what's more important for the developers. And so Yugo understands this language. He understands the intent. He understands what is important, why it's important. So I don't have to explain any of these things, and we don't have discussions. Yugo's always saying, okay, I did this, what do you think? That's the attitude, that's going to keep things going forward. It's not like, oh, I did this thing and we need to do it, right? That's kind of a different way of communicating. That's what I like about developers who do that. This is something I have in mind, what do you think about it, right? And then you can, so no idea is a bad idea, right? No idea is out of context. Every idea can be brought into context, provided the attitude is there. And that is the great, let's say, the oil, that the grease that oils the chains, that to keep it moving forward.
That's awesome. How about you, Yugo? You've been working with Manny on this open source project for several weeks now. Are you able to learn more about who Manny is by doing an open source project?
Sure. I'm just laughing here. I'm glad that Money didn't say I'm a bad developer publicly.
It would
But
be on record if I said it, so I wouldn't say it.
but yeah, I learned a lot. I'm much more new for on open source than Money and Bruno, so it has been a great experience. I have worked in some of projects, but not in this more actively with someone together. So it's a very good interaction here, and it relates a lot about communication that we are talking a little earlier. So it's a great place to work skills of communication, because there's where you really practice contribution, right? So open source is all about contribution and to contribute each other. you, you will end up and need to communicate and communicate in a very good way, so people are willing to help each other, and it's in both sides. People that are trying to help have to communicate good in a good way. People they need contributions also have to 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 evolve their communication skills. So yeah, that's that. And not just coding. Yeah, while you are in a project, you have a lot of things, like Mani said. I help it. Not just with code, but documentation and prioritizing and discuss the idea. So all of this is part of the process, and it helps a lot anyone, not just junior, but anyone in the development community to grow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a great, and actually, Basur says, yes, your peers are your best mentors, right? Work with great developers to become one. That's a great takeaway from today's discussion. So I think I'm gonna end that with that comment here from Basur. Basur does ask, how frequent do you guys code nowadays? So you're talking about here as people that are coding at night, right? On their free time, right? So yes, coding is still a big part of everyone's life here. But I just don't want to extend that too much. One thing that I want to do is go to our news and books, right? So what do you guys want to talk about today? So do you want to share news, Money?
Yeah. So I'm just, you read my mind, and I'm just pasting this in the chat, and you can pick the way you want to go about with it. You did write the Dev Nexus, is that right? And JFocus that happened this week.
All right, so Dev Nexus happened a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
I did participate on Dev Nexus, and it was a great event. Congratulations for the guys at the Atlanta Java User Group. Right, they did an awesome work. Right, so totally amazing. So congratulations there for all the guys. It was awesome. So yeah, let's put here Dev Nexus. So Dev Nexus happened in Atlanta. It was a great event. It was my first time coming back to an event, since the pandemic started. So I met lots of good people there. We had a Java's group meeting, Java's group summit with lots of Java's group leaders from all over the world. So DevNext was totally awesome. Lots of Java champions, lots of sponsors. Right, it was totally great. So and then there's J Focus, right? So do you want to talk about J Focus? Anyone participate in J Focus?
I have seen people's pictures on Twitter going to JFocus. A lot of them were Java champions, and from the Java world. So um, I couldn't say much about that. So I've just shared the links to the events. That has already happened and it's finished.
Yeah, so J
And
Focus finished already, but there was a lot of, they had a big party there, right? It was very very animated. I saw a tweet from Vincent. Vincent's the guy that runs Dev Nexus, right? And he's been, I mean, he used to be an evangelist for Oracle. So he actually organized events for Oracle. So he's been doing organizing events for a long time, and he did tweet about that J Focus, the guys from J Focus did a next level of community events. So congratulations for J Focus. It was totally awesome. Now, more on the Ali Money. What's going to happen next week?
yes, Next week we have DevOps UK 2022, and it's a hybrid event. So you have both in person and online, and the tickets are getting sold out very quickly. So anybody wants to grab them, you want to do that quickly. And it's been happening for quite some time. I think the first one was in 2013. And Bruno, I think, and you were there in one of the events, if I remember.
I don't think so. I don't think I
no?
came to Vox UK. No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay. I thought but you were involved with some of the events around that time. Maybe it was not DevOps UK, but maybe another event. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's right around the corner this year now, starting I think 11th of May all the way to the 13th of May, if I have the dates right. I should have the dates right. Yes, from the 11th to the 13th of May in London in the same venue. So that's kind of something everybody here in Europe and UK is looking forward to.
Cool. And it's going to be a hybrid, right? So people can participate online. Awesome.
Yeah, you could do both online and I think the online tickets probably are sold out. So now you have the face-to-face and online tickets remaining. We haven't spoken about TDC in a long time, Bruno. So I thought I'd bring that up. So when's the next edition of TDC? I know we had one recently in March.
So next edition of TDC is going to be on June 1 to 6, and it's going to be a in-person event and a hybrid also. It's going to be in person in Florianópolis, a beautiful city in the south of Brazil. And so next week we're going to be talking about to the coordinators of TDC, right, Yugo? So
yes.
what are you going to be doing about next week?
Well, I hope that we can contact with the coordinators and try to run the Y workshop, right?
No, we're not going to do what we're going to do mentoring.
The mentoring
for the coordinators, right, to help them be more interactive in a hybrid event, right? So
hybrid. Oh, sorry, I just mixed it with the other event that we'll be running together. So yeah.
Right. So so that's great. And actually, that's a good thing, right? So to next week, me and Yugo are gonna be at the garden. GS Jug. So so what's the name of it? It's the Garden State JavaScript group, GS Jug, right? So we're gonna be there next week, where we're gonna be discussing how to be a better developer. Exactly, right? So if you want to join us next week. How to be a better developer, it's right there on the gsjug.org. The Garden State JavaScript group is going to be totally online, so you can just go to the URL right there, and we can participate in that. So that's more news. That's good. All right,
cool.
Let's really go to books then, right? So how about books?
Great. Well, I have this book, The Back of the Napkin. It's a non-technical book by Dan Rome. And it's about putting your ideas in pictures. And the book is full of pictures.
Okay.
Right? So, creativity, again.
Interesting, yeah.
That's my recommendation. It was just lying here next to me, so I thought, why not recommend that?
Okay, cool. All right. So how about you, Yugo?
Well, I didn't prepare the title today, but I'm reading now this 21 lessons for the 21st century, and it's a really interesting, insightful book. It's not technical also, but giving some insight of the future as we bring AI vision here, how it will be in the future, how it will be influencing our society. It's a good book to think a little bit out of the box about about things that we do in our day to day and see a little bit more further.
What's the book called again, Yugo?
Let me paste here the link for.
Yeah, show the book again so you can.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's in Portuguese title, but it's 21 lessons for the 21st century. It's from Yugo Harari. It's a great author. It's the same author of Amadeus and Sapiens.
Yes, I'm put. Oh, okay. Same author, Amadeus. Okay, cool. So Back on Napkin is one book from Money, the 20 lessons for the 21st century from Yugo. That's great, right? So today you guys chose non-technical books, right? So that's my turn to do a slightly technical book, not very good, not very.
Written by Bruno. Written by Bruno, right?
No. That's a book that I think everyone.
Design patterns.
Yes, because Money start talking about you can't really know a good design or bad design if you don't know about design. So that book, man, it's an awesome book. So Design Patterns, it's it's I don't even know how old that is, right? So let me see if I can find here very so it's copyright 1994, right? So that's before Java, right? So, but it's still very, very, very
relevant.
I do think that you guys should take a look. It's a book exactly for what we're talking about here. If you want to be a better developer, you need to understand design, right? And so that's a great book. Someone should rewrite this book, right? So design pattern. So I do have I have 2 volumes. Let me show you this here then. Really quick here. So I'm not sure if that's Baslur is what you're talking about here, but I do have those 2 books here, right? It's Patterns in Java, Volume 1 and Volume 2, right? So those books here, they have pretty much all the patterns from the design, the pattern design books in Java, right? So yes, you can do that too if you want to. But I'll tell you what, for me, having done design patterns, I do think that the most important thing is for you to understand the patterns. Not that you're gonna, a lot of them you're never gonna use it actually in your life, but to understand how they work, why they work, and the book it's done in a way that it's not the language that matters, right? It's just to understand how things are. So I think that's my suggestion for today. I think that's a book. Every time we talk about being a good developer, that book has to be mentioned.
So, somebody mentioned about rewriting that book. And in my view, the book Refactoring to Patterns that has been rewritten or written based on design patterns, but from a different angle, is kind of a rewrite of the design patterns book from a more practical sense, because the design patterns book can be a bit theory, even though there's code and everything, some parts of it.
It's very
but
theory.
Refactoring, it can be dry, but refactoring to patterns is more practical stuff, right? Here's a piece of code. There's no design, or there is some hidden design. Refactor it to this design pattern, towards this design pattern, right? That is a lot more practical and kind of a rewrite of the design patterns book, giving the developer a little bit more or a lot more strength.
Okay, cool. All right, so we are way over time here today, but I can see lots of people still here with us. So thank everyone for participating here with us. It was totally great. It's totally amazing to be here with us and to be here with you, right? All of you here. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the comments. And if you want to have a little bit more discussion, I'm gonna be, me and you are gonna be on the Garden State JavaScript group next week. If you are a Brazilian, right? Actually, I'm gonna be talking about career tomorrow, right? Let me get one more link here for you guys. Because I'm gonna be in Serra Tech. It's an event in the hills of Rio de Janeiro, right? But of course, it's going to be fully online, right? So you don't have to be in Rio to participate. But it's going to be in Portuguese. So if you wanna see that, I'm going to be there tomorrow, and we're going to be next week. We're going to be, me and you are going to be at the GS Jug on Tuesday, and on Wednesday we're actually going to be with TDC, helping the coordinators of TDC. So lots and lots of opportunities for us to come talk to us. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks a lot, Money. Thanks a lot, Yugo. It's great to be here with you guys one more week.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thanks, Bruno. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to us and contributing back with such amazing comments and questions.
All right. So I see Pedro saying, thanks, Bruno, Manny, and Yugo. That's awesome. Thanks, Bruno, Manny, Yugo, says Baslur. You know, only pocketbooks, right? Yes, we're getting real books here, right? So, but all those books are available on Kindle and what other online things that you want, right? Okay, there's a design pattern book in Portuguese, exactly that. Okay, good. It's awesome. Okay, so thanks everyone, guys. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Guilherme. I see some other people that I haven't seen before here. So hey, Guilherme, thanks for being here. Thanks, Urania. Okay, that's great. So thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Thanks.
Take care. Bye bye. See
Bye-bye.
ya.